I read a lot of books in January. So for me, January flew by, but it also went by very slowly at the same time. But somehow I managed to read 12 different books. 12. I'm on my 13th now, and it's almost the end of the month. I'm not going to finish it. I'm going to go through each book that I've read, give you a little synopsis, a ranking of what I think of each. Yeah, let's just get into it. The first book I read is Bridgerton, It's in His Kiss. Now, this is Hyacinth's story. Bridgerton is on Netflix. That's how I first heard of it, and then I realized it was a book series, and I started reading it, and I loved them. They're just very cute, but this one is not like all of the others. The other ones are all about, like, they meet a guy, or the guy meets the girl, and then there's, like, a little plot, and then people try to get them together, but they don't want to be together. This one, a totally different, like, plot. There's, like, a thriller in there, and there's a mystery. The guy, I forget his name. What is it? Gareth, he has, like, a secret journal, and she helps him, like, translate it. And then there's, like, this big mystery around it, and then they have to, like, sneak into his old home, and it is so good. So I gave this 4 stars. It was really good. I definitely read it again. Also, following the Bridgerton books, the next book is Bridgerton on the Way to the Wedding. This is Gregory's story, the last sibling. But this was my favorite of the Bridgerton books. There's 7 of them. This was the best one yet. It was such a thriller and a mystery, and there was like a gigantic plot twist. There's so many things that happen, and it's so intense. Read this right now. I gave this 5 stars because it is just so good. He believes in love, and he just wants to fall in love so badly. All of his other siblings have fallen in love. He's the last one. So he sees one girl with her friend, and he falls in love with one girl, and then realizes, I don't know if I'm in love with her, and, something happens with her, so then he starts liking her friend, whose name is Lucy. Lucy is her name. Hermione was the friend he first fell in love with. Anyway, it is just such a good book. The end is just so page-turning. She got locked in a storage room, and then someone got shot or kidnapped. It was crazy. I usually like fiction and romance, but I decided to read a autobiography, which is Tom Felton's Beyond the Wand. If you don't know who Tom Felton is, he was Draco in the Harry Potter series. He wrote a book, and it was an autobiography about his life and his actorhood, his career in early childhood, and all the trials and errors of acting. I am not the biggest autobiography fan. I got pretty bored halfway through. He does tell a good tale, he's a good writer, but halfway through, I was just skimming ahead and just like skimming lines, which I never do. I usually read line for line. Most times I read lines over and over again. I gave it 2 stars. It is a good book. I'm just not the biggest autobiography fan. He had a drug abuse or alcoholic, or he did drugs or something, and he got in a lot of trouble, and he had to go to rehab, and then he got out, and then I didn't even know all that stuff about him, so I did like learning about that, but I just gave it 2 stars. I don't think I'll read it again, but I'm glad that I read it and learned more about him. Alright, the next book is probably my favorite book ever. It is Once Upon a Broken Heart. This book is the best fantasy, romance, thriller. It's not really a thriller, but I have read this before, months prior, but I had to read it again because the sequel came out, and I had to read it again to refresh my mind so I could be prepared. Oh my god, this book is it's so good. And Stephanie Garber, she is such a good writer. There is something happening every second of the book. There is not a boring moment at all. The main character, her name is Evangeline Fox. She has rose hair. And then there's this one guy, Jax, and he's a Fate. And Fates, they have like secret powers or something. I don't really know. She loses her dad or something in the beginning. I can't really remember at this current moment, even though I said it was my favorite book. Sorry. I'm struggling here right now. Sorry, guys. I read so many books, I can't distinguish them. She goes to the Fates because her old lover or boyfriend or whatever, he falls in love with her stepsister. and she's like, something isn't right. And she finds Jax, who like grants wishes. He turns everyone to stone, and so she saves them, and then they wake her up, and then Jax kisses her wrists or something, like really intimately. She gives him 3 kisses, but to different people, and each of the kisses do different things, and everyone thinks she's the key to like a secret passageway thing. It is just so damn good. The plot, the characters, just so many things happen. It just draws you in. So I gave this 5 stars. Definitely, if you haven't read this, I recommend. It is so good. Following that book, I of course had to read the sequel, The Ballad of Never After, and this book was honestly better than Once Upon a Broken Heart. It again followed Evangeline and Jax's story. She's the key, and so they open it, but there's like all this sexual tension between Jax and Evangeline, and I want them to kiss so damn bad. Kisses are fatal. Like, it kills you if you kiss them, but if it's his one true love, the girl won't die. The book made me literally so confused and dazed at the end, because I was just like, at the end, I literally had to like sit and I was just freaking out, because the ending is just so enthralling. I can't even read it. I gave it 5 stars. Just read it. Next is Caraval, which is also by Stephanie Garber. Oh, my nose itches. I read this, and then afterwards, I didn't realize that you should read this series before Once Upon a Broken Heart, because it like leads up to the story. Oh my god, my nose. Definitely recommend reading this series first, then the other one, but you can read Once Upon a Broken Heart series first. It really doesn't matter. You'll just spoil yourself, but it really doesn't matter. This is another fantasy coming of age. Caraval, it's like a game. These 2 sisters, and one sister gets stolen, and then the other sister has to come and find her by playing the game. And then she meets this one guy, and there's like a gigantic plot twist at the end. Honestly, unlike any book I've ever read, it was so suspenseful and thrilling. It drew you in. And I don't really usually it's kind of like Hunger Games. I'm not really a Hunger Games kind of fan, but it was so good. I give it 5 stars. Whoa, that was a big bird. Okay, anyway, this book is massive on Book Talk. Everybody talks about it. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to think about it. Yep, you probably know what it is. The Love Hypothesis. I finally got the nerve to read it. I don't know why, but I waited so long to read it because I'm not really a science-y fan, and there is a lot of science in this book, but like not a lot. Sometimes they were talking and I had no idea what they were talking about. It's a romance. I heard so many high reviews on it. My hopes were high, and honestly they were met. Olive meets, or I shouldn't say meet, she immediately kisses Adam because her friend is like saying, hey girl, you need a date, because she stole her boyfriend or something. And they end up like fake dating. They kind of like help each other out, if you know what I mean. That romantic scene was very very intense and very detailed, and I was not expecting that. I gave it 4 stars. I would probably read it again. I definitely want to get all of the other books by her. The next 2 books, I'm just putting them together. It is the Summer I Turned Pretty series. I read The Summer I Turned Pretty a few months ago during the summer in like June or July. And these are the next book. We'll always have summer, and It's Not Summer Without You. And listen, I don't love this series. Honestly, they're not my favorite. They're kind of slow and kind of repetitive and boring at some points. Some points are really, when you realize who she first got with and then who she second got with and ended up with, is pretty shocking. Also kind of not. How you think it's going to happen is how it's going to happen. Literally don't remember what happens in them, like at all. They're just the same thing. She is in love with Conrad. She tries to go for him, but then he pushes her away. So then she goes to another brother, Jeremiah, but then he is like too much for her and she still loves Conrad. And then I don't even know, they like try to sell the house and then they stay at the house. I just don't love these books, so I gave them, always have the summer. The last one I am gonna give 3 stars because this was the best out of all of them. It had the most like suspenseful stuff, and there was like a wedding, and it was crazy. I'll give It's Summer Without You 2 stars. Whoa, my book pile is falling. Also, a popular one on Book Talk, it is Beach Read. I was honestly disappointed by this book. I heard lots of high reviews on it, and it didn't hit the mark for me. You know, it was a good book, not boring, but it was very slow. It's a slow burn. Not romantically, but just the book was just slow. Some of the plots were not needed. I was just confused, and I just wanted to get it going. I just wanted to move on to the next book that I was going to read. I don't know. It's two authors, and they meet at a beach house, and their neighbors. I really hope that wasn't loud. These allergies, man. It was cute with the love story. It just seems like every other book couple to me. I guess it's like friends to lovers, or past. They used to know each other in the past, and then they were like enemies in the past or something, but it doesn't really go over. It just says they kind of like stole each other's like assignments and were like ass kissers to the professors. I don't really know. But she's a romantic author, and he's like literature author or something. I don't even remember what she said. But they try swapping. He writes romantic, she writes whatever he writes. And then they end up falling in love, and there's like a little bit of drama with her house because it was like her dad's house, and he cheated on her mom. I don't know. I gave it... How many stars did I give this? I gave this 2 stars. It was good. I think I'd read it again and give it a second chance. So maybe I'll give it 3 stars. But for right now, I'm giving it 2.5 stars. 3 stars. I don't know. Oh my gosh. I can't even. It's Love in Other Words. I also put off this book for a long time because for some reason, every time I read the synopsis on the back, I just didn't understand it. But I am so happy I read this book. This is probably the cutest book I've ever read. It's like friends to lovers. They're little kids when they meet. I wouldn't say little kids. They're like preteens. They fall in love, and then something happens, and they get separated for like 11 years. And then they see each other, and then there's like some trials and tribulations that happen. But let me just say, it's very cute. Each chapter goes back from the past and the present. Like it'll say 11 years ago in the past, and then it'll say the present. But I honestly love that because it's so suspenseful, because you get things from the past and you want to know like what happens next, but then you have to go back to the future. Anyway, you get it. I couldn't put it down. Like a looming mystery about what happened in the past 11 years ago. And I thought I knew what would happen, but it didn't happen the way that I thought it would happen. I would read this again and again and again, which is why I gave it 5 stars. And the last book I read is Reminders of Him. This is a Colleen Hoover book. She has gone very popular on Book Talk, or from Book Talk, I should say. This is a pretty sad, kind of slow book. It's kind of dark. Kind of, not really. This girl, I can't remember her name right now. What is it? I'm like trying to remember things that happen, and my brain's like articulating. That's not the right word. This girl, Kenna, she falls for this guy, Scotty, which we don't hear a lot about in this book. You'd think we would hear more, or like more stories, but it's mostly about her and this guy, Ledger, which is Scotty's best friend. Scotty dies, and Kenna goes to prison, and you don't know why, but you do find out later. And she finds out she's pregnant, she gives birth, and then she loses the rights. Scotty's parents take away the baby and their what is that word? They take away her legal guardian rights. They're their guardians now. She comes back to town wanting to get her daughter back. She meets this guy, and he is like Scotty's best friend, Ledger, and you can pretty much predict how the end goes. It was pretty repetitive and kind of slow, but I liked it. I just wouldn't say I loved it, so I gave it 3 stars. I don't know if I'd read it again. It was good. I mean, I read it in like a day. Those are all of the 12 books that I read. My favorite was definitely The Ballad of Never After, although Love in Other Words was a very close second. It's my cup of tea. Thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely recommend most, if not all, of these books. Go read some books, y'all. they help your brain power, and I feel really accomplished. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Bye. Oh my god.